Hello, welcome to the Reframing Mindset podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity to practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, now so welcome back to Reframe Mindset podcast. My name is Colin Smith Brooks. I know this episode is basically going to talk about, knowing your self worth. And I guess this is a very important topic because, in the working world and wherever you are, that how you think of yourself is how, I guess, it kind of contributes how people really deal with you and such like that. And I've been at the low point and at the high point and in the middle, where low point where basically where I'm kind of at still, kind of, because, throughout my life, doing the science degree, it's still not a respected, what I'm doing, biochemistry, its first thing is not really understand, people don't really understand it, that's the first thing. And what they don't understand, they really put respect on it. So that's the first thing. And the next thing in my where I'm from, science is not really a valued thing in that they science is really best up where I'm from, Yeah, I'm privileged to where I've learned science through, the schools that I actually went and institution and university that I went. I'm glad I went to those places because learning science there was really valuable, the people that actually passed me through there. But coming out of school and actually seeing how this whole corona saga going and such like that, yeah, it's a mess. This science thing is a mess. It's, as I said, the corruption. Corruption is rampant in this place, but bruh, it affects everything, even health. That's when I realize corruption is bad. When even health, that's mainly where science kind of comes in mostly. But even health, there's some sort of corruption there, and like, damn, bro, that's sad. That's sad. So what I've learned is that basically I had to adjust. Coming out in the real world, I had to basically adjust because first thing in the real world, one thing where I'm from, one thing that I had to adjust was basically my degree kind of never meant was minimalized in as I said. I don't remember if I mentioned it before or not, but my degree. Oh yes, I said it. As I mentioned before, my degree is under, not really understood by much, so it's not really respected. And then after that, every company have basically a a standard thing that they look for. So like if you're going to a bank, they say, oh, accounting or whatever. So and that's basically majority of what is here where I'm from, structured institution that just look for certain things. So that was one of the first things that I basically had to realize in my adjustment to the real world was that my what I was doing was not valued at all by the society, and that's really kind of drop your self worth in many ways because what that kind of limits your economic ability to become financially stable because if what you have done is not valued in the economy, nobody's going to pay you. So that's one of the first thing that you have to basically realize that it's not me saying that you should deter yourself from doing something that you love to go do something that is economically viable. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you're doing that, going through the system, kind of get a gauge on how people are perceive your goal, what you want to be, because as I said, when I was going through the school system, what I wanted to become was a scientist. And when I went to high school, when I said I wanted to become a scientist, teacher was just on me and saying like, which scientist, where basically prior to that, I only know scientists, I never know about biologists and chemists and all that stuff. So when you don't know that, and then you go to a high school, which is one more prestigious institution, because where I was, the primary school that I went was not really that prestigious. So we learned, it was a good learning institution, but it's not really this. The high school that I went was in the city. So if you went to the city primary schools and such like that, you would kind of get more tutored towards those kind of schools. So basically, when I went into high school, I was out of my lane, so I take time to adjust to the new system. So basically, when I went there, me saying, "Oh, I want to become a scientist," teachers coming like, "Oh, what kind of scientist you want to be?" And I never knew any other scientists. I just say, what the hell do you mean by that? You don't know biologists, you don't know this and that, so those things kind of going to kind of impact you in your self-worth, where basically the world, society, people basically who may be limited in their dreams are not, people, that's one of the first things you see, people who the world has beaten down and said, okay, this is how far you have gone, and they accepted that, as you're growing up, and a little person growing up, those people are going to come to you and try to belittle your self-worth. But sometimes it's constructive. In my case, I guess it was constructive, because I had to actually learn more about what I actually wanted to do, But in other ways, it might be deconstructive, People kind of trying to deter you from the dream that you want to be. Unless it's an illegal dream, Don't go illegal. Don't go. It's like it's a waste of time. There's youth. Take it from me. You don't want to go the illegal route. No matter what. The country that I'm from, it doesn't end well, and it doesn't fulfill you. It's a short-lived dream. It's a short-lived dream, and so that's basically, you want to look for things that is long-term sustainable. So that's the first thing I wanted to think about when you're choosing what you want to be. So basically, the first thing is, people who are beaten down by the world will kind of try to decrease your self-worth, and then the dream, this thing that you want to be, maybe something that is not really respected by the society. So basically, it's up to you to show the society. Well, I don't really want you to go and prove to the society. That's not one. It's up to you to determine yourself what you're worth and what that dream is worth, and then execute it for yourself to bring it for you to fruition for you, and then whoever in the society say, okay, they'll be bad and good for bringing those dreams to fruition. You have haters and all those stuff. But if you have listened to the previous podcast, where basically I was talking about some things you have to look up, you will look towards when you're going on your journey to greatness. You will know how to deal with those things. But that's the first thing. You have to internalize your self-worth, and it will change over time because, as I said, you're not really knowing what your self-worth is. As I said, during my journey through the science, some things kind of inflated my self-worth. Like, for example, when I'm doing science, so I was called a nerd, nerd and such like that. I was in the first brightest when I went into grade 8, so we were the nerd class, and I was more into anime and such like that. So my my social standing was not really that good, It wasn't really that good. But I was going I was going towards my goal to become a scientist. So that for that example is where the society is belittling your self worth, which it will take some it will be embarrassed and all these things, but you have to take that pressure and to say, okay, regardless, the society is in beating you down. You're on the track to accomplishing your goal that you said you want to be. So that's one of the places where basically you have to internalize your self worth, and then not only that, the things that I was interested in, I actually like them. So when I was called a nerd for liking anime and the friends that I have and such like that, I actually like the people that I was around and the anime and the such like that. So you have to just it was rather was getting beat down by the society. Actually, I like where I was, so you have to just take that bad with the good and say, okay, yeah. Over time now, basically, I joined basketball, and then we started to do well. Basketball at the school was not really a popular sport. For the story about this, the football, the football team was at our high school was very well. I can't say they were bad or good or not because I don't really know football, but they never went from way back. I think before I was born or whatever. They won 2 titles. From then they never went. They never won anything else in the high school tournament, and they were never really that good. But regardless of what happened, every football match, the whole school will be supporting the football team, But the basketball team only the players who had fans and such like that would support the basketball team. So basically, when I came in grade 7, at the time the upperclassmen were very popular, so people usually support the basketball team more. But as I went to grade 8 and grade 9, the upperclassmen kind of finished high school, so the fans would be basically the people who would have met in grade 8 and grade 9. So those were the people who were the people who supported those people that actually supported the basketball. And then when I joined, I was a nerd, as I said before. No fans really. Most of the friends that I have in my class were on the basketball team. So basically, I was bringing nobody over. I was bringing nobody over. But what happened was the team started to win more. We actually went to the Western Championship multiple times during my tenure, and then our final year we actually went to the All Ireland finals. And over time, that kind of built up the momentum for the school actually accepting and investing in believing basketball could bring greatness to the school, and back to the self-worth thing again. Our final year, the year that we went to my final year when I went to the finals, that year the rim broke, and due to how, as I said, football was more people were more interested in football in the school than basketball. For that whole year we didn't have any rim, so we never practiced on any rim. We basically were just doing um, endurance training that whole season, So that was basically it. But because we actually went to the finals and did well, we were winning so much Like, we had our classics that we won that year. We won the Western Conference final, and then we went to the All Islands finals. Even though we lost then, but the momentum that we built up throughout the year builds a lot of fans that even the principal said, okay, yeah, we did well as a basketballer. And then the year after we left, basketball kind of flourished more, and then eventually we won a championship at the school. But as I said, that being on the basketball team kind of propelled my self-worth by the society, by the school, at the time, that which was the society more, where, more, it was a dual thing. So on the outside of my class, more people knew me through basketball and such like that. But my self-worth during the science place where I was in the class and such like that, my self-worth and how much people respected me and such like that grew through me doing well in the subjects. Like, for example, when I said in sixth form, where basically the teachers threatened me, say, okay, if I don't get the highest in the class, he's going to ban me from the class. So that kind of forced me to actually do well in those classes. That kind of increased my self-worth in this, where people actually kind of respected me more. But along with basketball, that kind of propelled me where I'm not really much of that nerd, but more somewhat popular. But back to the self-worth thing, it never clicked with me because I was still the same person. I was still the same person that liked anime. I was still the same person that doesn't really talk to people that much, and never outside of the people that I deal with and such like that. And the thing that I actually want to talk about, I was never really that sociable. So while people around me were giving myself more, while people were valuing me more, that wasn't what I wanted. So that's the next thing where I can get from it, where more while people were giving you offers, say, oh, you're so valuable and such like that, but does it align to who you are as a person and your vision? You have some people that, like, for example, a lot of famous people that is here end up taking overdose on some pills and such like that. Maybe the music thing was their passion, but when the fame and the fans and all those things come together, the pressure got to them, and they basically started record broke under the pressure and basically end up overdose and die. So, well, deleted themselves, and that's because their inflated self-worth, they weren't prepared for that great inflation of their self-worth, and then all of a sudden the pressure gets to them where basically the society is expecting them to do this and that and this and that, and so that's one of the things where basically the self-worth I'm trying to separate the society value of you and your value of yourself, because the overall goal, I think, you should work towards is you achieving your internal self-worth and not the society's self-worth. Because if you reach that, you're fulfilled, so your internal self-worth, you'll be more fulfilled, you'll be really fulfilled compared to basically achieving the societal welfare, self-worth where people like you and such like that. If you actually achieve what you want in life, get the home that you want, the car that you want, the career that you want, and such like that, that would, even if it's the most unpopular thing, you'll be so happy that you did it compared to if you actually do what the people tell you to do. Say, okay, if you do this, people will like you more and such like that. So that's basically the essence of self-worth, where that's the essence of the two self-worth that I'm trying to explain to you. The societal self-worth and your internal self-worth. So project that now into the real world, because I don't really, if I get the essence from me through high school, you don't really need to know about the university. So you want to understand the works in the real world, in my opinion. So what I had to do basically was try to figure out what society's self-worth what things that the society values, and actually figure out how to add it towards my goal. So first thing, this podcast is not a popular thing in the country, but it was something legal. When I leave university, it was something legal that I could do, that could, if it worked out, could bring me profit, bring me money and such like that. At a time when I was unemployed, it was something legal I could do, and it over time it kind of bring down my societal self-worth, because I was talking about a lot of things, controversial stuff. A lot of people hate me and such like that, but it helped me accomplish things that I wouldn't be able to do if I was doing. Maybe I would be able to do it, but I would be more fulfilled as I am doing it this way. So that's one of the things where sometime in the real world, your self-worth, you have to take a L to get to take a L for a few times to actually bounce back to get to where I want to be. So when university, I was balling. I was known at my hall as one of the cool person. In the lab, I was okay. I was doing well, and I wasn't really known. And in the faculty I was in, because I really went to the class, so I wasn't really known it. But on the hall, I was pretty known. But when I actually left the university now, my being unemployed, that dropped my self-worth a lot. And then applying for a for work and getting rejected, that decreased my internal self-worth a lot, along with the third year failure. So no, my what I thought of myself was really low. So I was trying to find a way to actually build up more momentum for myself. But the thing about it is, I was starting from with no they call it no format. I had nothing that I was working with. I never know what I was trying to do was something that was never done before. So basically, and I had no one prior before that could help me. So I was trying to figure it out, and then over time I went some other route, where basically I took up some programming and did that for 2 months, and kind of get some idea to actually try the self-employed thing. And that's how I ended up with the podcast stuff. But over time, what happened was, the first thing that actually kind of helped me build my self-worth was getting someone in the field. My cousin was in the working world for a while, so actually dealing with him for a while and see how he does stuff, even though he was in the programming field. So I actually learned programming and do his thing during the corona time, and dealing with him for a while gave me some ideas, even though during that time as well, my family was telling me things that I should do to actually reach, to progress. So that's where as I says, your internal self-worth and societal self-worth. Sometimes, back to it again, sometimes when your internal self-worth is low, the societal self-worth, society can basically influence you more on what you want to do. So, my family was telling me that, okay, I should apply for a certain master's that could get me a job or aim that pays over a lot of money, and I was actually applying and actually going to do it. The only reason why it never got through was due to the corona situation that kind of slowed down the process. So during the meantime, I was learning to get my driver's license while kind of doing the podcast stuff, while also kind of recovering from my illness, so that so doing the driver's license and actually getting it while I got the license, it never really changed much for me. But the reason why I wanted to do the driver's license was because in the working world, a lot of the jobs required driver's license. Driver's license was a plus, so my thinking was then, if I got the driver's license, even though my skills is not really valued by society, having a driver's license will kind of give me more value. After getting it, I realized that never really changed, and so the next thing that I had to do was basically use my knowledge that I've learned over the years, my science knowledge, in an entrepreneurial way to get myself out of poverty. So basically what I had to do was, it was a corona time, so basically there was a lot of lockdown and such like that. So the plan was how I'm going to have to monitor. I have to basically find a way to monetize my skills, and that's how I went. It wasn't me that developed it, but the person that made it out was a YouTuber called Coach Greg Adams that made up the 90 Days to Change Your Life. And then there's another thing that I found, which was dopamine fasting. So I incorporated those two now to basically get myself one day to figure out, what do I want to do in life? Where do I want to be ideally? Right? Just get that down, write it down on a paper. And then the next thing I do was have a plan and execution. That was basically my addition to. So the 90 Days to Change Your Life was from Coach Greg Adams. The dopamine detox was from another YouTuber. But the plan and execution part was my part, where basically I give you the detailed steps, things that I think about for each of the things that I want to achieve. And what happened during those 90 days was me trial and error, learning what I can and can't do, and then over time that compounded into me eventually being at my own place, and that's due to the family success. That the way how I did my thing was basically I leveraged my family's privileges to basically increase, to basically move up the ladder. So my family have a lot of my family are in various privileged positions, work and such like that. So I use the opportunity they gave me. For example, my uncle kind of helped me got my driver's license because he knew the system well. So he found me the person that could teach me and such like that. So I did that. And meanwhile, I'm working on the podcast and other stuff and the other things, the YouTube, the Twitch, and whatnot. And then being at my uncle give me experience, real life experience in managing my own home. all the things that I experienced, the $64,000 light bill, the light going away, a storm, all those things, all those time there give me experience to see how I would basically manage a home. Those are things I would really found wouldn't really get in a working environment, but it added to my, well, not societal self-worth, but my goals, my internal self-worth, where basically those things are helping me now, where basically when I'm at my own place, I see the vision of how I want my place to be. And well, you see the episodes where I was doing what I'm doing, and there's some more things that to be done, some which make it easier to get the vision that I want to be, and that's due to me, instead of trying to realizing, okay, the societal way is not for me, it's not going to work, because the societal ways is about having links and a network and all those stuff. I never had that, so basically I had to do what I had to do was use the knowledge that I've accumulated over my lifetime, become a lifelong learner. Most of these things are things that I've learned on the go. So more while where I'm not recording episodes, I'm watching a lot of various YouTube videos, looking at all kind of people and learning, watching news, all these things give me more information to learn more about the world, to know how to make proper decisions. And the next thing that I realized was those things never increased my societal network, my societal self-worth, because I think still today, my societal self-worth, what people think of me, hasn't really changed. But what has changed is people see me accomplish my goals. Even though they might still have that same perception of me, regardless if they think negatively or positively or what, I'm accomplishing my goals. And over time, what will happen is, when I over time achieve one of the societal goals. So I got my graduation picture for my biochemistry degree. So that kind of validates what I was talking about Corona. Me living today kind of validates what I was saying about, kind of more validate what I'm saying about Corona. So that's there. Even if nobody really cares or not, if it comes to that, I validated myself. I'm a living testament to that. If for some reason this year everything works out and I get the Tesla and it touches the Jamaican street, that's would be one of the first societal wins, where people will be like, oh damn, how did you get that? How did you went from that to people would ask that, because that would make me in the car club and basically give me societal points, if you get what I mean. And that would be a better way to kind of promote the podcast, because then I would say, okay, I documented my journey from where I was to basically how I got the Tesla, so it will be there. So this is one of the things where basically how the podcast will be something that is valueless to the society now, but all of a become very valuable to the society. So this podcast will return from basically how basically I'm just basically talking to myself to eventually me documenting the road to success. So that's the first thing. The next thing is basically, this year, God's willing, if I go through this year well, um everything goes well. The next year I think will be more prepared to handle being a homeowner. I'll be more prepared because even though I make it this far, we are January, February, March, April, May, April, 4 months in this home ownership thing. We still haven't reached a year. A lot can go wrong, and something I may have found out was I think there are two property taxes are basically 2 times a year. That's something I never know. And then with this gas thing, this gas price increase, this war in Ukraine and whatnot, it's kind of affecting a lot of stuff. So a lot of things can go wrong. But one of the next thing that came to me that will also impact your self-worth is relationships. So, as I said, going to school, science and whatnot, nerd, not accepted. You're a female quality. I'm a male, so the female quality, the reverse, the male quality, will not be the best. But back to previously, what I said before was that your ideal goal is to actually fulfill your internal self-worth that you have for yourself. I've reached this far and I still love science. And over time, what I have done was basically validated my profession to the people. I went through the primary school, high school, university, and graduated. And I met a lot of people. I've lost a lot of people on the way. But what happened was basically I gained more quality people. Over time, I may lose more people, but the thing about self-worth that I also want to mention is that ideally you want to achieve all your goals, your self goals, be at the end of your self goals. So, and then you're looking to get into a relationship. That's easier said than done. That's easier said than done. But that's the ideal place, because what happens is when you bring someone else into your orbit, they have maybe different goals than you, different personalities than you, and such as, and then you have to, that will eventually, maybe, for example, a pretty girl all of a sudden give you the look and say, yeah man, I'm interested in you. And you say, okay, this is the best, this is a girl that I never thought I would get, and she presents an opportunity. But what happens is, if you get with her, you become slack towards your goals, and those are the things along the way. Most of my finesses and how bad ways of getting girls and such like, all those things were a blessing for me, because if I had a relationship, I would have to be thinking about supporting for two. Being single allow my cost of living to be very low, and more to understand myself more, build up my own more self-confidence, and learn more about what and who I want to incorporate into my life. And the wrong person, incorporating the wrong people in your life can really affect, bring negative things on you, So one of these things about building your self-worth again is that the more you fulfill your self goals and build more confidence in your self worth, when you go around people, you more to influence them towards doing something positive rather than you being influenced by them doing something negative. So for example, if I were to go back to one of my friends now more, they more to be like, they would ask, come and ask something like, oh, you're rich and whatnot, because over time I'm accomplishing my goals, so that will seem like, oh, I'm getting richer and whatnot. And in some ways, yes, but there's more problems with the progress, It's I'm not really not I'm nothing like that. But them me validating my progress in life, accomplishing things that they want to achieve. When I go around them again, I'm more able to influence them to say, okay, the podcast really documented what I've done to reach this far. So it's up to you to basically find what you need from that and actually go and do it for yourself. So me being going around them now can have more positive influence to make them do more um positive and more legal things rather than go towards doing illegal stuff to actually to get where they want to go. So that's another way how you're fulfilling your internal self-worth can have a positive impact around the people that you want to be, the people that you want to surround yourself with, and it gives you more leverage in choosing the people that you want to be around with, and maybe choosing the right partner that you want to do a long-term relationship with. The downside is that maybe when you go to the fulfill part of your the end of your journey of self-fulfillment, when you fulfill all your dreams and whatnot, you don't have a partner there. Nobody lines up, so you basically have to go there alone. In my opinion, that is a good way to go. In that, I there's nothing like achieving a goal that you set. Something that you thought that was impossible. And then when you achieve it, you'll be like, wow. I get the right woman will really bring that out of you, yes. But over my time going through it, a relationship brings so much more disappointment, and it's variable. The person can love you today, tomorrow you don't know. You may have this crush on a girl that seems perfect and all. You find out, and you say, okay, let me just kind of put my effort to actually do. Find out, okay, she's not single or whatnot. So all these things the relationship thing, all these things are out of your control. But what you can control is your self goal. And once you accomplish your self goal, what I can recommend then is you, over this time, people will kind of on your self goal journey and school and that, you'll make friends. You have these people in your life, interacting with you. Maybe have their number, their Facebook and whatnot. On your goal and journey, you gauge them, to see how they react to your success, see how yourself has changed. Are you interested in the same things again? And then see how they are progressing. So some people, they may be a good-hearted person, but you have to progress far and then maybe come back for them, and maybe they're not willing to wait. But when you reach your point, regardless, if you come back, you can always offer them a help. Some people have to leave, and then over time you have some people, when you reach a new level, you have access to new people, more quality people that can deal with. And then you have some people that are way beyond you, that you see that you want to be, which kind of motivates you more to try to actually achieve the success to really unlock that person to really get a relationship with, which maybe when you unlock it you realize that okay, you don't have access to her either, so as I said, there's a lot of variability with relationship in terms of self-worth and whatnot, but over time, as you accomplish your self-worth goal, as you accomplish your goals, your confidence in yourself grows, your self-worth can be more validated. So when you say things, your words have more weight. If a little kids in primary school is telling you basic stuff, yeah, you can, people will, the adult people will, when the adult people look at you and laugh and say, oh, yeah, little Colin is, little Colin can say is 1, 2, 3 and ABC. When you come out of university and you're talking to people, they may not value your talk about your opinion because they don't understand your degree and whatnot. But I just start to in the real world now say, okay, what do I want to achieve in the real world now? So have your goals, and they have a plan to execute those goals, and then start achieving those goals. All of a sudden, your words, people see you achieve a goal and said, how you do that? And then when I tell them, you have the proof. So if they take it or not, it validates what you are saying, and then you achieve some more. And then the person that you told how to do something before may not take what you said seriously before, but all of a sudden seeing you accomplish more to start taking what you say seriously and say, oh, yeah, maybe I actually take, so that's basically how accomplish your internal self-worth can basically influence more people to come to to validate your societal self-worth. So it's a long episode. So I guess I'm going to wrap up to give the main points on what I want to say in that. So there are two types of self-worth, in my opinion. Your internal self-worth, that is what you want to, what you imagine your value as, and the thing that you want to fulfill. And then you have societal self-worth, that is what the society values, and then they measure you according to what those society values. So, for example, cars, house, the occupation. For example, if you live in a really criminal society, they value criminals, woman will value criminals and bad man and such like that over more career driven 9 to 5 employees and such like that. The society values that. You don't want to be that. So that's where your internal self-worth has to be developed, where you're saying, okay, yeah, society values that, but if I actually do that, that's a bad end for me. So I have to do my internal self-worth auditing to say, okay, these are what I want to achieve, and even though these are going to give me some societal losses, in the long term it will accomplish will fulfill my internal self-worth. So that's basically the main thing. Any other thing? Yours, over time your self-worth will become more refined. So you start out maybe with a more big ego, where basically you say, oh, I'm worth this much, grandiose, feel, and then, but over time you realize that, okay, no, maybe yes, I am worth that much, but I don't really need that much. That's not the priority. No. So you will say, okay, I worth this much. Like, yeah, I feel myself as a billionaire. But over time, you can refine that self worth where you say, okay, yes, I see myself as a billionaire, but the most important thing that I need now is food, shelter, and water. What what are the requirements that do I need to actually get food, shelter, and water? Then you have to start there. You have to start at the basic things, because it doesn't make no sense if you see yourself a billionaire and you're walking around, you're predicting yourself that, and then you're going around people who are not worth that. you know, so they can't really add any value to you. It will be more likely it's you who have to add value to them. So that's basically where the one of the more important things is where you have to adapt your self-worth. Where, for example, I'm a university graduate. I have, even though my knowledge is more vast, I have to be able to bring my knowledge down to the common man. To There are some common average person knowledge that are valuable. So so even though basically I graduated university, I still need to be able to converse easily with the average person that never went to the university to be effective, because if I'm coming out and I'm just basically talking about Krebs cycle and all these stuff, you know, the average man don't really care about that. They just care about selling you stuff to make ends meet to actually go feed their family. So you have so you have to able to be able to adapt yourself worth to the people you are around. You have to know when to not really be so flaunty. Don't flaunt your being better and whatnot, or to come down to their level, and then where I know when to basically inflate your self, where basically if you're meeting someone that is a top CEO and such like that, you have to just project intellectual prowess, where your handshake is more firm. You're more your back is stand straight. Your command respect, your eloquence is more succinct. For example, in Jamaica, where I'm from, you have patois, the normal Creole, and they have English language, which is more commonly worldwide accepted. If I'm dealing in a more business-like place, official business-like places, I have to project eloquence in English. That's all. Like, for example, I'm in the bank. The bankers will speak more in English. So to be more respected, talk to them back in English. But if you're dealing with the average man that is talking in patois and whatnot, you can be more lax with your language. So that's the next thing. Kind of know how to adapt your self-worth to the people you're dealing with. And then the last thing is basically try not to as much to be influenced by societal self-worth, but more to be influenced towards the society. So instead of the society telling you what to be or what not to be a more positive influence towards it, where when people come around you, they say, okay, I want to be like that, even though you could be a drug lord or a big criminal mind, and people will be like, oh, I want to be like that. Yeah, you can be that, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Be a more positive, legal, you know, thing, you know. And so it can be a more positive influence. So it can have more long term, fulfilling success. You don't want to be a person being every day have to wake up one day being on the wrong side of the law, saying, okay, every day I have to wake up and think about how I'm going to get away from all these people or not. If you're doing things the right way and having a positive influence, you you don't really have to worry. You just wake up and you're enjoying what the new day will bring. It's new day, new opportunity, and you will relish it in all. Even if you basically um all thing you have is a cup of water, you just so because you're on the right side of the law and nothing really bothering you. That water is just so valuable, you know, compared to basically if you're on the wrong side of the um wrong side of the law, you basically have to say, yo, what if this water is poisonous? Yeah, so yeah. So that's basically the many the main things that I wanted to take away from this. It's a long episode, but yeah, it has to be this long to actually get you to in the right mindset to know to actually get yourself an idea of what you want to be in your self worth, what you need to know to be your self worth. Know that the society may not value you that way, but have an action plan to see your to project yourself up to that level that you have for yourself. You know, so that's the main takeaway. So thank you for listening to this um, podcast episode, and look forward for the next episode. Mm-hmm. What? Ah, oh my gosh, bro.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.
No, in these in these hard times, you have to basically be glad for the small blessings that you get in these times. And basically, this episode is going to talk about how being at the right place at the right time just got me a few extra things that it never really matters, but hey, freeze, hey, you're getting something free. Yeah, we just take the win. Yeah, we just take the win. Like, it's not every day you get that win. So basically, I'm going to do grocery shopping as usual, trying to get some I call laundry items, soap and such like that. And basically, I pick up I was looking for an item to buy.